You probably noticed that some people seem to move through life faster than everybody else. Within just a few years, they're fitter, wealthier, and more disciplined, whilst everyone around them is still in the same place. And lucky for you, there isn't any singular, mystical secret to progression. There is no cheat code to mastery, but there is a way to actually structure your life so that naturally you start to get ahead and eventually start to outpace everybody around you without burning out or without forcing it. If you can really put your mind to it, if you can dedicate yourself to a sustainable workflow, if you can analyze your mistakes and carry yourself with the right attitude, you can be on your way to becoming a master in your field, to hit your goals a lot faster than you may have previously expected. So boom, step one is to learn how to tap into and harness hyperfocus. Learn to call upon the flow state. So the flow state, you know, when you're working and you suddenly find yourself completely absorbed in what you're doing. You're creative, you're able to receive new ideas, and you feel like no distraction can actually stop you. That is flow state. That is the hyperfocus that we all want. And the good thing is that it doesn't come randomly. You can actually learn to harness this. You can learn to use it every day. And a lot of people think they need to work constantly. People think they need to put in 8 to 10 hour days. But really, if you can tap into deep focus, you can get that same amount of work done in a couple of hours. And it's kind of sad because people aren't really privy to the true power of hyperfocus, of true flow state. And if they did, they would almost be regretful of all the time that they have spent beating around the bush and pandering around their tasks. And this is partly the fault of school and work culture that perpetuates the office kind of lifestyle, where you're kind of doing work, but you're also kind of talking to your colleagues at the same time. You know, getting up to make yourself a coffee when really you know that you're just going to be chatting away in the staff kitchen, distracting yourself. Your work shouldn't feel like something that you slowly chip away at all day. You should really be sitting down and attacking your work, attacking the task with calm efficiency, calm intensity. And so you can learn to harness the skill of hyperfocus, the skill of tapping into flow state. My favorite way to tap into the flow state is by having a simple and relaxed morning routine. And it sounds corny, but it is what works for me. You know, I wake up, I get some air, I have my coffee or tea, and then I sit down alone and focus on just one task. I don't try and plan ahead, I don't try and schedule, I focus on just one task. And I make sure that my phone is in the other room. You know, if I need my laptop, I'll bring it with me, but if not, I'll leave that in the other room too. And so I sit and focus on this one single task, and I aim to complete it as simply as possible, as efficiently as I can. So no gimmicks, no fancy handwriting and highlighters. I just attack it with calm efficiency, that calm intensity that I was talking about. And I'm not super locked in, I'm not grinding away, I'm just focused. And this is where the hyperfocus starts to kick in. You know, I work best with no music on in the background, but some people find focus. They can actually focus with music, especially music with no lyrics. So if you do want some stimulation, look up brown noise or pink noise. It's basically like background static, kind of like white noise, but it's deeper and it sort of rumbles like a nighttime car or a plane ride. But once you start this, once you find your routine and you find your flow, once you build the discipline to start, regardless of how you feel, you will end up finding that flow state every single time. It becomes something that you can actually access daily. You can instantly just snap and you're focused, you're in gear. I'm in flow state right now recording this, and I was in flow state when I was scripting this video as well. If you can create the right environment and design yourself a routine that actually puts your brain into gear, then inevitably you will be able to find this hyper focus every day whenever you decide to call upon it. You know, just cut the fluff, apply yourself, and you can complete that 4-hour task in less than an hour. So number 2, the next method is elimination. Step 2, elimination. So following on from building that routine, you want to be able to cut out all the things that you think that you need to do and focus on just that one task that actually moves you forward. You know, the Pareto effect, or the 80-20 rule. Basically the idea that 80% of the result comes from only 20% of your actions. A minority of effort drives the majority of results. And so your job is to identify that 20% and focus on it relentlessly. Either find ways to delegate or to entirely cut out any of that excess fluff. So for example, as a YouTuber, the work that I can do to actually grow my channel is by making the videos. And so I draft a rough script and I just press record. I don't overthink it and I don't do too much. I'm not faffing around changing titles of old videos, and I'm not spending hours making YouTube shorts for marginal gains, marginal returns. And so again, how does a long form YouTuber actually grow by making the videos. It's that simple. There's no secret sauce. The real distraction is trying to convince yourself that you need to be doing all these peripheral tasks that you think contribute to the result, but they really don't. And this same idea of cutting the fluff, it applies everywhere, it applies anywhere. It's like when I used to work as a chef, you know, in the kitchen, everybody had a specific role. And generally, you're going to be focusing on your station, your task alone. And you end up getting better at that one thing that you're doing. It's kind of like an assembly line at a factory. Find your 20% and focus on it, because that's how flow and efficiency actually happen. Again, find your 20% and build your routine, build your life around it. You know, be autistic and hyper focus in on this 20% task. Put it at the forefront of your lifestyle. Hyper focus and aim to weave your life around prioritizing this goal. And this should come naturally too. You know, I find joy in exploring these new ideas. So as for entrepreneurship, when I wake up, when I'm eating a meal, or when I'm drinking coffee in the morning, when I go out on a walk, I'm thinking about what I'm going to be doing when I return to work to develop my businesses. I'm thinking about how I can make my process smoother and more efficient. And if you can't hyper focus on a task or business, if you have truly tried, if you've experimented and you really feel like you can't hyper focus, then that's okay, because this is a gentle reminder from life that your chosen business probably isn't actually for you. You probably don't genuinely enjoy it enough. And this allows you to pivot early instead of wasting months or years. It allows you to find something that you actually enjoy day to day. You know, I will always say that you shouldn't simply pursue a skill or business purely for the money. Pursue it because you actually enjoy the journey. Pursue it because you enjoy the process. Because if you don't enjoy the process, you won't actually last long enough to succeed in the first place. Because if you can be relentless, calm, and efficient, yet at the same time actually have fun and enjoy developing, then you're probably going to succeed anyway. So the real question is, why not spend that time doing the thing that you actually enjoy? Develop the skill, develop the business that you actually have passion for. Ask yourself this: so if you knew you were going to fail in 6 months, say a ghost pulls up on you and tells you that, broski, your business that you're building right now, I'm here to tell you that it fails. If you knew that you weren't going to succeed on this path, would you regret the lifestyle that you have been living? Would you regret the day-to-day work that you have been doing? If you would regret taking on that lifestyle, it's more than likely because you don't actually enjoy the business for what it is, and you were just doing it for the money. But on the other hand, if you were destined to fail and yet you still wouldn't regret having started that business or having developed that skill, then that would indicate to you that you are actually on the right track and you have picked the right business for you. You know, the business or path that you actually enjoy day to day. So feel free to pause and have a think about that. But number 3, aim to reverse engineer. Aim to work backwards from a goal and put it into actionable steps. You know, on this journey, by being an entrepreneur, we are basically walking in the dark, and the light is only revealed to us through experimentation and progression. We don't actually know. We can't predict what is in store for us, and that is fine because it's part of the life. But how fast progresses better navigate and better determine what actually needs to be done is by first imagining where you want to be and then working backwards. So if you want to make 60k a year, let's say, then that means you need to be making 5k a month. And if you want to make 5k a month, so 5k a month is what, 1.2k a week, and that's about 150 to 200 a day. So you need to be making 150 to 200 a day. And so now think about how you can actually make that 200 a day. What does that look like for you within your business? So is that closing 1 deal a day? Is that selling 10 products? What does that look like in the context of your work or business? What do you need to do daily to hit that quota or goal? And so when you figure this out, you're not guessing anymore because you actually have some direction. You have a daily quest to tick off. So create a system that actually allows you to hit those quotas, to hit that daily target, regardless of how you're feeling. And this flows perfectly into step 4. So step 4, design a system that allows you to work sustainably towards hitting your daily quota or target. And I say this because a solid system will always be relying on a random surge of motivation. So let's say your goal is that 1 sale a day, closing that 1 deal per day. you now want to make a rough sort of estimate. So let's say it will probably take, I don't know, 100 calls, say 3 to 4 maybe hours per day. And so with those 4 hours, let's say you split that. So you do 2 hours of calls in the morning and then 2 hours later in the day. Now you trial this rough system. You experiment. So you wake up, you have your tea or coffee, maybe you give yourself an hour or so to just wake up, to stretch, to shower, and to get into gear. And then you get to work again with that calm intensity, that calm focus that allows you to tap into hyperfocus. And so with trial and experimentation, perhaps you find that people are more responsive in the evenings. And so therefore, you might want to concentrate more of your time towards that 3, 4, 5 p.m. mark. And that's the game. Trial and error. Finding the system, the routine that works best for you is what entrepreneurship is all about. Because there is no set path. There is no set blueprint. Start with a rough system and improve it constantly. Try your best to stop approaching goals with vague ambition. It's not really too productive to just tell yourself that, I want to make 10k a month, or I want to get into peak shape. Instead, build a system. Start with a rough routine and improve it through experimentation. The idea is to remove the friction so that good habits become everyday and easy and bad habits are hard. So again, instead of saying that I want to make more money, perhaps reframe your goal to say, okay, maybe I want to make more money, so I want to become more knowledgeable. And to become more knowledgeable, let's say you want to read more. And so therefore, you decide to delete social media from your phone, which is the system that will allow you to read more, to become knowledgeable, and to eventually make more money. And because you've deleted social media from your phone in the first place, there is no option to actually do these bad habits day to day. Again, you've removed the choice in the first place. You're removing friction, which allows you to actually follow your systems. So again, aim to come up with a rough goal and to work backwards from this goal. Think about the quotas or what you need to be doing every day to actually be on the right track. Because the magic is found in just starting, coming up with a rough system and improving it by 1% every day. There is no perfect system and there is no perfect schedule. You know, if your sleep schedule is messed up and you're waking up at 2 p.m. every day, don't wait to start working up early to begin your business. Just try and start from a rough system, you know, remove the friction, remove the option to do these bad habits in the first place, and just adjust from there. Find what works and keep on adjusting it. Alright, so step 5 is to dismantle your ego and to embrace being a beginner. One of the biggest things that slows people down is their ego, their toxic sense of pride. Too many people don't want to look stupid. They are afraid to make mistakes. They don't want to admit that they don't actually know what they're doing. And this is a major problem that too many people fail to recognize. Because the reality is that progress comes from mistakes. And so the faster you actually make these mistakes, the faster you're going to learn. There is no shame whatsoever in being a beginner, in being an amateur. And in my opinion, one of the best environments to experience this, to learn to kill your ego, is in the martial arts gym. And I try and preach this as much as I can, but learning a martial art will do so much for your character, so much for you that goes beyond the physical benefits that it provides. By learning a martial art, you're gonna learn to kill your ego. By learning a martial art, there is no hiding. So if your body is under conditioned, if you're not strong enough, those pains, those aches are gonna be the feedback that you need to work on your endurance and strength. You know, if you try and high kick the bag and you end up slipping and landing flat on the floor, that is feedback. The feedback is that you don't yet have the stability, the leg strength and dexterity to high kick. Or if you're getting jumpy, if you're overly flinching and panicking and sparring or rolling, then you know that your nervous system is not yet acclimatized to combat. You know that you haven't put in enough hours to truly feel calm and focused in action. And that's a good thing, because this is all feedback that allows you to know what it is that you actually need to work on. Feedback and failure forces you to put your ego to the side and to actually risk looking like a fool, to learn and to patch holes in your game. You know, the person who asks a question is a fool for a minute, but the person who never bothers to ask in the first place remains a fool for a lifetime. So instead of trying to be perfect, aim to actually put yourself out there in difficult and challenging environments and to actively learn from your own mistakes. And furthermore, when something doesn't go your way, don't just brush it off either. Pause, reflect, and ask yourself, what went wrong? What could I have done better in that situation? And what can I do next time to change the result? You know, spend 20 minutes meditating, or spend some time putting pen to paper and journaling. Meditation, journaling both allow you to slow down and to analyze your behaviors, tendencies, and progress. And journaling is not moist. Journaling is not cringe. It actually helps you to improve your self-awareness. You learn to confront your deficiencies in a healthy manner. Because how are you going to know when you need to adjust in business, life, or in relationships if you have no self-awareness? Who actually wants to live life with no self-awareness, really? And journaling, analyzing yourself, is how you can actually improve here. How you can actually become self-aware. You know, write down your thoughts, your mistakes, your wins. And over time, you start to notice patterns. You start to better understand yourself, and it is this self-awareness that allows you to improve faster than everybody else. Literally just pull out a pen and paper and have a conversation with yourself. Don't think about it too much, just focus on whatever pops up in your mind, as this is what needs your immediate attention. And so alongside journaling, meditation, and introspection, you also want to be educating yourself constantly. You know, study people ahead of you, learn from their mistakes so that you don't have to make them for yourself. And now more than ever, you have access to tools that can accelerate this process. You know, use AI in a healthy way, in moderation. Use it to learn things, to give you an account of a concept that you don't understand. Use it to break things down for you. Use it to improve your systems. You know, there is no excuse to stay confused or uneducated anymore. And so finally, step 6, environment and people. You know, you could do everything right, but if you surround yourself with the wrong people, you are always going to be held back. Because if the people around you are negative, lazy, or make it easy for you to be doing bad habits or living a bad lifestyle, then it might be necessary for you to limit how much time you spend with them, or maybe let them know how you feel and respectfully part ways with them entirely, because you have to be intentional about who you spend your time with. So cut out people who drain your energy, cut out people who are jealous of you, and distance yourself from toxic environments. Actively put yourself in environments that force growth. And again, this is where something like a martial arts gym becomes so powerful, because you are surrounded by people who are disciplined, consistent, and improving themselves every single day, pushing themselves mentally and physically, and you will naturally absorb that mindset. You know, you are the sum of the 5 people who you spend the most time with, and you don't even have to think about it. You don't even have to be conscious of your development, because your standards just rise automatically. You absorb their traits through osmosis, through association, through proximity. Surround yourself with like-minded people. Put yourself in environments that force you to grow and develop to new heights. Actively seek out other people who are building. Send that message, send that email. Find people who are focused. Find people who are also improving daily, because your environment is either going to push you forward or keep you stuck. There's no real in between. And so yeah, when you bring all of this together, so hyperfocus, elimination, working backwards, building systems, and learning from mistakes, reflecting and surrounding yourself with the right people, this is exactly how you can get ahead, how you can lead a sustainable lifestyle that actually allows you to get ahead and to stay ahead, to quietly outcompete your competition. And you can do this without grinding away and without sacrificing your mental health. This channel is all about healthy, sustainable development, and not through some sort of secret shortcut, not through some overnight breakthrough, but from consistent, focused, and intentional effort day after day. Because most people aren't actually competing that hard. Most people are distracted, most people are inconsistent and often quit way too early. So if you can stay focused, if you can stay disciplined and keep improving, even if it's slowly, you will naturally start to pull ahead, and you won't even need to announce it. Real progress does not make noise, it just shows.